from Bishop Manogue High School. Welcome into Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. He is Mike Stefansson. I'm Shannon Kelly. Mike, another season of high school football is upon us. It's great to be back out here. Fall is in the air.
I know.
In northern Nevada.
Summer came and went pretty dang quick because summer is always a great time in our neck of the woods. But as summer fades away, here comes the fall and, of course, high school football. Cannot believe we are sitting on the field here at Bishop Manogue getting ready to kick off another season, Shannon.
The lights will be turned back on in northern Nevada for the next few months. There's just one new head coach for the Northern 5A division this year, Mike, in C.J. Winch over at Reno High School, and at 5 other different schools. Their second-year head coaches. You look at Matt Marner at McQueen, Ryan Beauchard at Carson, Ty Gregg at DeMonte Ranch, and then Brad Rose over at North Valleys and Anthony Doucette over at Hug now. So lots of changes as it's been a busy offseason for the NIAA as well.
That's for dang sure. Of course, those coaches last year establishing foundations at their respective schools, and a couple of those that you mentioned, Coach Rose over at North Valleys, Coach Doucette over at Hug, well, they were in the 3A last year. 2 of 3 new teams in the 5A ranks, joined by Wooster, as again you said it, the NIAA keeping busy in the offseason with conference realignment. But it sounds like it could be a positive going forward.
It certainly could. Very interesting to hear the perspective. Here's what some of the coaches had to say.
If we're all being honest, it's a good thing.
Obviously, the elephant in the room is not in the room anymore. With giving everybody a chance to win a state championship, I think is ultimately what it's about.
It's going to be very interesting. Interesting to see how it plays out. Excited to see how it plays out. We want to compete.
I think it's a great equalizer for us up here. We talk about a legit chance of winning a state championship.
This current situation is probably the most excitement there's been in the North about having a really good chance of competing for a state title if you can win the Northern region. And, that hasn't really been the talk for quite some time.
We're just kind of looking for a home and some stability so that we can regain those rivalries across town or whoever those might be and have some sort of competition amongst the schools and all sports, not just football.
I love it. If you look at the 5A3, which is where we're at, you look at it, every single game can be competitive.
Everybody's excited about it, I think, up and down the board in the 5A3. It'll be interesting to play some of those teams.
I think it puts us in a good spot. We'll see where it shakes up at the end of the year, but I think ultimately it puts us in a better spot competition-wise.
I feel like this is probably the most competitive alignment I've seen. It's just going to create a lot of chances for some close games this year, and I think that you're going to see every Friday night there's going to be some really close scores.
Everyone feels like they have an opportunity to win a regional or state championship now, and that wasn't really the case before. You had your top dogs in the 5A and then kind of everyone else, and then you had your top dogs in the 3A and everyone else, and I think it's a lot more competitive now where everyone feels like they really have a chance to do something and end their season with the trophy.
So the 5A division is split between 3 classifications. Mike, Division 1 includes only schools from the South. Division 2 includes Bishop Manogue, DeMonte Ranch, McQueen, Reno, Spanish Springs, and Reed, as well as schools from the South. And then Division 3 includes Carson, Douglas, Galena, Wooster, North Valleys, and Hug. So it should certainly make for a very interesting season, one that we haven't seen in quite some time. And as these coaches said, really, it's giving everybody in the North a fair shot.
Well, as you saw, no coaches against this realignment. Obviously, they had their input in the offseason, and when you look at the tier of power rankings, if you will, over the last handful of years in our region, I think they got it right with the 6 schools that are in D2, the 6 schools that are in D3, and a funny side note with Coach Doucette, great shades, by the way, in that soundbite. He also noted about realignment. I'm glad that the Hawks don't have to go to Elko every year anymore, as he had a lot of Elko trips over the last few years between his time at North Valleys and Hug. But in all seriousness, this feels like it was a move that maybe should have even been done a while ago, considering the elephant in the room that Coach Marner was talking about, a.k.a. Bishop Gorman. The Gales have won 12 of the last 13 large class state championships in football. The other one was won by another Vegas school, as Liberty was able to clip Bishop Gorman back in 2019. So you got to go all the way back 15 years to see the last time a North school got it done.
Yeah, that was quite some time ago when McQueen won back in 2008. So now it's the top 2 dogs from the Division II classification will play each other, as well as from the Division III. So it's great that, there is some more balance, hopefully, as there will be teams from the North and the South in Division II
Yes.
and in Division III this
So
year.
technically, by the time the season's over, there will be 3 5A state champions, which is a little different than what everybody's used to, but there will be 3 state titles given out in the 5A. And another wrinkle that the NIAA included is that the teams, and this is based off of regular season standings, the team that finishes last in the 5A D2 will drop down to D3 next year. The team that finishes first, again, regular season wise in D3, will bump up to D2 next year. And we should note that these realignment plans are on a 2-year basis. So after next season, they'll look at it again and see how it worked and maybe shift things again or maybe stick with it.
Yeah, so it makes for a very interesting situation because these factors are only decided upon the league games. So
that's right.
Not the preseason games, not the postseason games. So in theory, you could be winning a state championship, but then going down to a Division III
exactly
the following season.
Technically,
so
that could play out.
Could play out.
Historically, usually the team that wins the regular season we see end up claiming that regional championship, but all bets could really be off the table this year, as it should be an exciting year. And as we get set to preview all the teams, a year ago we were previewing 9 5A North teams, and now we have a dozen of them to talk about, which is pretty exciting stuff.
We're just getting started here on Countdown to Kickoff. We'll take a look at Bishop Manogue and Damani Ranch right after this.
Welcome back to our Champion Chevrolet Countdown to Kickoff special presented by America First Credit Union. She's Shannon Kelly. I'm Mike Stefansson. We're hanging out at Bishop Manogue High School as we get set for our 12 5A team previews. And Shannon, we might as well start with the 5A D2 and the team who plays on the field we're sitting on and those minors.
Yes, Mike, we sure as well do so. And they're led by Ernie Howard. It's his 7th year here at Bishop Manogue. Coach Howard, longtime coach at Reed High School. Last season, Bishop Manogue went undefeated in league play. They were on an 11-game winning streak heading into the state title game. You know these minors are just as hungry this season. Now, despite losing wide receiver Marshawn Brown, tight end Christian Ingman, and quarterback Logan Howren, the minors are loaded still once again this year. They're replenishing. We have senior quarterback Philip Jacobs taking over for Howren this year, and Coach Howren said he spins the ball better than any kid they've ever had. So that is saying something. I'm excited to watch him play. We also have Ben Scolari coming back, the Nevada commit. Dom Marcanato at wide receiver. You have Carter Eck coming back at tight end. Celestia Manu on the defensive line. So still the minors have weapons all over once again, and they are one of the teams to beat here in Northern Nevada this year.
I think we're going to take it all the way. I think we're going to run the North. Do good throughout playoffs and play in state.
Every week we'll get better because you really don't know until you're in the game what it's going to be like. So I think as the weeks go on, just get better and better.
We definitely have room to be even better than we were last year. More experience, as in like wide receivers, and our O-line staying basically the same, and just we'll be really good. I think we have a great opportunity.
Some of these guys played a lot last year. Some guys have not, but they're going to be stepping in and having starting roles this year. I've loved the way that they work in the weight room. We've done a lot of really good things on the football field, and I think we still need some time. They still got to kind of keep meshing as a group, playing like a team, and that's coming. First game, we get to go down to Vegas, 7-hour bus ride. We're playing in 105-degree heat. Kids probably aren't going to like hearing that, but they know it's going to be hot down there. But we beat Vegas up here. I guarantee they are going to be coming after us in that game. They're going to want to beat us, and obviously, like I said, a 7-hour bus trip. I love it. It's something we get to kind of prepare ourselves for traveling on the road. And then the very next week, we got to travel over to the hill to Jesuit, and they took it to us here, and we got to get better when we play them. And then we finish with a game here at home against Central Catholic.
So enough another tough schedule right out of the gates for Bishop Manogue, but his Miners are ready, Mike. They are
Ernie
ready.
Howard, just a football guy, right? I feel like they're going to have to drag him out of here one of these days to have the next regime, but he's got plenty of years ahead, it's safe to assume. And yeah, he knows how to build a strong schedule because he knows what it takes to try to reach the top of the mountain, having got oh so close with both Bishop Manogue and over at Reed High School. And so the Miners, no reason to believe they won't be the class of the North once again in 2023. Let's transition now and go just down the road to the home of the Damani Ranch Mustangs. Year 2 on deck under head coach Ty Gregg. Talk about being the class of the North. Damani Ranch was that between 16 and 21. The Mustangs went 21-0 in league play. Of course, Cade McNamara was a big reason why. Now the quarterback over at Iowa. Things a lot different nowadays. Just 3-7 last year, although they did start the season 0-4 before finishing 3-3. As far as returning players go, 6 all-region players do return, but 11 are gone. Sounds like the Mustangs will be strong in the trenches, though, according to their head coach, Ty Gregg.
I think we're athletic, and we have a solid group of linemen returning. And a lot of those guys got experience last year as sophomores and juniors and for us. So that I think is going to be up front for us is going to be something we like to fall back on.
When you're looking now to build this roster this season, what are you and your coaching staff looking for in these younger players as they're battling it out for a starting spot?
Yeah, leadership. It's when you're young and you have some seniors that can kind of set that tone, but you need a lot of other guys, that are younger to start leading fast. And we're seeing that, which is a good thing, and we just have to keep that going.
How do you hope to take command of the offense this season?
Just keep the energy up, keep everybody pushing. Fourth quarter, when it gets hard, just keep pushing, keep the mindsets right.
Mindsets will be everything, especially for these prep athletes, as again, the Mustangs try to get back to those winning and dominant ways over there off of Rio Wrangler. They will open the season against Hug on the 18th.
Should be, fun to see what they're going to be able to do this year. A lot of new pieces, skill position-wise. We saw Joey Jamison there. He was injured at the JV level. We'll see if he can emerge as the Mustangs' starting quarterback this year.
Their youth program has done a really good job over the years, and Coach Sean Dupree was a big part of that before he ended up back down in Las Vegas. But bringing up talent, that's the whole name of the game, so we'll see what the Mustangs have in store. Coming up, our Countdown to Kickoff show continues as we head from South Reno. We're going to head a little west, checking in on the Reno Huskies and those Lancers from McQueen. That's next.
Welcome back to Countdown to Kickoff. Heading up Robb Drive to take a look at the McQueen Lancers now, Mike, led by second-year head coach Matt Marner.
Proud history up on the hill, of course, and we recently talked about how they are the last big school up north to win a state championship. Coming up on 15 years ago now. But yes, let's talk about the Lancers in year 1 under Coach Marner. 3-7 overall. They finished 7th in the 5A, ended up losing to Reed in a first-round playoff contest. 13 all-region players are gone. Just 5 are back. But of course, this program just a couple years removed from being in the state final, although Robbie Snelling and Ashton Hayes are not walking through that door. Over 40 juniors are on this squad, so you got to think the momentum is strong. I have a feeling we'll be calling Trey Legron's name a lot come Friday nights. But for the Lancers, it's all about capturing and holding on to some momentum.
What excites me most about this group is how close they are to this point. We've had a lot of team building activities we've done to build camaraderie and trust and rapport and communication, all those things. And I think we're taking big steps towards having these guys care about each other. I've told them before, they don't have to be best friends with everybody, but you have to care about your teammate because we're playing the ultimate team sport with a common goal in mind.
What do you think you learned most last season, your first year as a head coach?
To be really critical of what we're doing in practice. One thing that I've tried to really focus on this offseason is intelligent preparation. We've talked a lot about intelligent preparation. Took my coaches to a few clinics that we've never gone to before. And just trying to be more of a teacher on the field than a guy with a whistle.
What did you learn from some of the older guys before you?
Not even just as much actual football stuff, but just how to be a leader and how to go like about your approach. My sophomore year, when I got pulled up to varsity, those seniors got after it. So it's just not even just words or anything, just looking to see how they get after it, how they work.
Our potential depends on this summer. So far, we've been working really hard and putting in that work to get us better in the North. So we want to bring that tradition of winning back up to the North.
Feels like a very focused Lancer squad, which will open with 4 straight home games, including some opponents from across the border in California. Game 1 against Grant out of Sacramento. Interesting hearing Coach Marner talking about they went to clinics and did some things that they've never done before. You can tell that he learned a lot in year 1 about what it takes to be a head coach and now trying to implement that into year 2.
Absolutely, and looking up to Jim Snelling, who was there beforehand.
That's
Matt
right.
Marner is just the 3rd head coach in McQueen High history. A lot of tradition at McQueen, so not an easy task to take over such a storied program.
That's true. Speaking of tradition, our next school has a lot of it and a first-year head coach.
That it does. Reno High, led by first-year head coach C.J. Winch this year. He was previously the defensive coordinator. He first got his head coaching job up here in Reno, actually at Reno High under Dan Avancino back in 2010. Then he made some stops at Hug, was at Demonte Ranch when Cade McNamara was there, and then has since found his way back to Reno High School. He told us it's a dream come true to get this head coaching job, and he brings on a really good group of seniors this year. They have Champ Notice, Jackson Sellers is back. Reno went 6-5 last year, 3-3 in the Northern 5A, and they had a playoff victory over at Demonte Ranch. But they have some pieces to fill this year. At quarterback, Hayden Parga has left. Drew Dutton no longer is there as well, the wide receiver. So a good quarterback battle going on right now between Nick Woodhead, Jaden Luce, and Braylon Wilson. So he said they're going to want to run the ball a lot to kind of get their younger guys, established in the beginning there. So we'll see, but here's what Coach Winch had to say.
We're going to be pretty senior heavy. I think I counted 25 or 26 seniors, about 10, 15 juniors, and we're going to have about 5, 6 sophomores up there too. So we had a pretty talented freshman group. They've been working their tails off in the off season, and they've showed they deserve to be out here.
It's tough when you lose a guy like Hayden because he's such a leader and someone's having to fill in that spot and become a leader, and if they weren't last year, it's kind of weird having them kind of run everything. But I think that Braden is doing a pretty good job, settling in, and everybody kind of respects him, and Jaden is also doing pretty good. And I think that it's not going to be too big of a culture shock coming in with them because I feel like they're kind of natural born leaders, and it's going to not be too tough of a transition.
Just what have the adjustments been like this off season with a new head coach?
It's not really different. We know his motto from last year, from him being our defensive coordinator. He's a really good coach. He knows what he's talking about, so we just trust him and trust what he's telling us will work.
One of the biggest things athletic director, administration talk about is like what it means to be the head coach, and I've really taken that to heart. Trying our best to really connect with our community. Our parents are amazing. There's a lot of people before me that laid the foundation and everything that is here. So my job is to not only keep the standard, but hopefully improve that standard as well.
Coach Winch added they'll have a pretty strong offensive line as well, despite replacing Carson Darby. He was a 3-year starter and was certainly the heart and soul of the Huskies' offensive line the past few years.
Well, as Coach mentioned, there is a strong tradition of success and winning over there at Reno High School. They don't tolerate anything but that, and so no reason to believe that they're not able to fill that gap. And Coach Winch, as you mentioned, has been around this community, and so he is very, very familiar with the scene, and he knows he's plugged in with obviously all these players and coaches, and so I'm excited to see what he can do in year 1. I'm sure he'll learn a lot that he'll eventually take into next season as well.
Yeah, me too. It'll be exciting to watch the Huskies as they enter this new era. Coming up next here on Countdown to Kickoff, we'll head out to Sparks. We'll take a look at Reed and Spanish Springs right after this.
Our Countdown to Kickoff special continues here at Bishop Manogue High School. She's Shannon Kelly. I'm Mike Stefansson, and we now head up Pyramid Highway to visit with a team that last year, Shannon, battled these minors for that Northern Championship.
They sure did. The Spanish Springs Cougars, when talking with some of the guys, they said that is certainly a motivating factor this summer to get back to that place and to overcome and become the first school in Spanish Springs history to win a regional championship, something that has not been accomplished and something that they do talk about. And this group this year, they have to replace a lot of guys, as do a lot of schools in this area. Quarterback J.J. Dane was a senior last year, wide receiver Nate Penny. So they'll have about 9 new starters on defense, 8 new starters on offense. Coach Hummel said a lot of those guys were rotational guys last year, so they did have some playing time on varsity. Tate Hummel will be the starting quarterback this year. It's his senior season, but Coach Hummel very proud of what he's seen so far this summer. He said these guys understand how to win. The coaches have been pleased with their work ethic, and they're playing unselfish football. That'll certainly be huge as they go down the stretch this season.
We talk a lot about the fact that, no team in school history in the sport of football from Spanish Springs has been a regional champion yet. And you only get one opportunity to be that first team. We were close last year. We've been close a few times, but we talk about, okay, what's it going to take to actually get it done? And, who's going to be that first team? And that's kind of the challenge. I feel like it's a team that can do some great things. You got to stay healthy, and like everybody else. And, like I said, work to get better each and every week. We got a tough schedule again. I mean, we don't have any games on there that are going to be just show up and win type of stuff, especially with the realignment things and stuff like that in our preseason schedule. So, we're going to see what we're made of the first 3 weeks before we head into our non-league games and then to our league games. So we're excited. We're looking forward to it.
Especially with that senior group last year, we got really, really close to that game last year, down by a touchdown from Minogue. I feel like the whole group's that played last year is ready to go take it from them and keep it going.
Have you guys used that as motivation this summer?
Oh, yes, definitely. We always remember that dang number that we had to deal with.
We're all super hungry, especially the guys that were on the team last year and falling up short. Seeing all the seniors cry at the end of that game, it's hold a special spot in my heart and trying to get it back for them.
Tate Hummel saying it best there, that they want to get that back. They want to taste what that regional championship feels like, Mike. So we'll see if the Cougars can do it this year. But also some exciting news up on Pyramid Highway. Spanish Springs has a new scoreboard this season. Coach Hummel said this has been in the works for quite some time now. It's a video board, so really cool to see. He kind of joked and said, hey, if you've been to a Spanish Springs football game the last couple of years, you really never know what you're going to get. So that'll be exciting.
Well, shout out to the Cougars stepping their game up scoreboard-wise. And again, this is a team that has stacked a lot of wins over the last handful of years. That Northern Championship still eludes them, though, as we transition to a team that has claimed that Northern title hardware a handful of times back when Coach Howard was leading the charge. It is the Reed Raiders, 7-4 last season, 5-1 in league play. Did get a first-round playoff win over McQueen before losing to those Spanish Springs Cougars in the second round of the postseason. It's the 4th season for head coach Garrett Hughes. He's got a lot to replace, including the record-setting running back Spencer Firebaugh, now part of the Wolfpack. 11 starters are back, though. One of those not included, Dakota Dunlap, who we learned suffered a torn ACL over the summer. He was set to be one of the best quarterbacks in the region. Instead, the Raiders will have to look elsewhere. But with that said, this is a program with a rich history. No reason to believe that won't continue this year.
This is a really physical group. They compete, they play hard, practice hard. But I think that experience is a big piece of it, and the depth that comes with having a lot of guys that have experience, I think, is going to be strengths for us.
Not having Spencer Firebaugh in the mix, how do you hope some of the younger guys learned from him last year to kind of ensue that role?
Yeah, Spencer was obviously a stud for us. But he'll be the first one to tell you a lot of the yards he got was thanks to the guys up front blocking for him. We returned 3 of our 5 starters on the offensive line, and we feel really good about the backs that we've got this year. We've got 3 different guys, competing for carries right now, and they all bring a little bit different elements to the game, and I think they can all contribute for us. And we definitely expect to be able to run the ball behind our line, and hopefully be a little more balanced and keep teams honest with the passing game too.
Where do you think your guys' strengths are going to be this season?
Defense, 100%. We got a lot of players, a lot of big bodies. I'll be leading the defense in. and I think it's a motivating factor, you know, because when you have some guys that you can look to, you know what I mean, to make plays, or it motivates you to make plays. And that's what we really want as a group. We want everyone to be able to make plays and kind of bring each other up.
Yeah, last year it was, once again, Spencer Firebaugh, number 5, who you saw in those highlights, making a ton of plays each and every Friday night. So a lot of production to replace, but Reed is another one of those schools that has had a great history of a pipeline of young kids that have played together for years and years. And so, again, no reason to believe that the Raiders won't stack more wins than losses in 2023.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they're going to run the ball quite a bit. Last year, they always seem to do that, but I'm sure a lot of those guys looked up to Spencer Firebaugh and hope to try and emulate that this year.
Well, he's still in town, so hopefully he can still hang out around that Raiders program. So that is it for the 5A D2. So technically we're moving to a whole nother league after this, and who better to start with than that old rivalry in the capital city. Carson and Douglas. We're previewing the Senators and the Tigers right after this as our countdown to kickoff special continues.
Welcome back to Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. He's Mike Stefansson. I'm Shannon Kelly. Heading south now to the capital city, taking a look at the Carson Senators, led by second-year head coach Ryan Beauchard.
This is a team that is looking to get back on the winning side of things, Shannon. From 2009 to 2015, Carson won 61 games. Since then, they've won 13 games. 2-9 last year, and we do have to note that one of those wins was via a forfeit. But the one game they actually played and won was a big one, a 12-11 victory over their rivals down the road at Douglas High School. Did also score 28 points against Minogue, which was tied for the most of any northern school last year. So a little bit to take from last year into year 2 under Coach Beauchard. 6 all-region players are gone. 6 are back. The Senators looking to establish, I should say, catapult off of the foundation established last year.
We definitely got a lot less experience than last year, but I think that could work in our advantage. We just really want to win this year. Like, we want to prove everyone wrong.
I actually switched to varsity last year, so I wasn't with my boys, but this year they're all coming up, so we're all playing together, so that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, I think we could go pretty far. I think we can get to maybe a league championship here, but I'm not sure. We're going to have to work pretty hard for that.
There's a lot of things that I told the kids that I was going to change from last year to this year that would be in the betterment of the team. So I feel that we've made great strides in the process of coaching staff and getting the kids to completely buy into the system.
Now in your second season at Carson, how do you feel like last year you really implemented the foundation of what you wanted this program to look like moving forward?
Absolutely. Being a first-year head coach was very different. You know, you stand back as an assistant and you see what your head coach is doing, but you never know everything that it entails. So there's a lot of things that I told the kids that I was going to change from last year to this year that would be in the betterment of the team. So I feel that we've made great strides in the process of coaching staff and getting the kids to completely buy into the system.
I really appreciate that perspective from Coach Beauchard, because he basically admitted, like, hey, I had to learn a whole lot last year. And this, you know, being an assistant and watching a head coach work is not the same as being a head coach. And so he was very transparent about that. And so I'm sure he's a lot more comfortable as he gets set for year 2 leading the Senators. How about Kincaid talking about a league championship and then immediately realizing, I better step that back a little bit. With that said, we'll see what the Senators can do. And, of course, that game against Douglas, who we'll preview now, is going to be another fun one.
But exciting for both of these teams to play in the Division III this year, which should be competitive among these 6 northern teams up here. Douglas excited to be playing in this division as well, led by third-year head coach Kyle Mays. They return 8 all-region players, most notably Cole Smalley, one of the best defenders in the North this year. But depth is an issue at Douglas. They've lacked that the last year or 2 now. So we'll see if Douglas can, pull these games out down the stretch this year. But Cole Smalley racked up 118 tackles this year. Running back and defensive back Connor Jackson. He is back after earning all-conference honors last year. He rushed for more than 600 yards, and offensive lineman Sage 80. Coach Mays speaking very highly of him. He said that he is going to give a lot of headaches to people and give us an advantage on some people. So we'll see what the Tigers can do up front, but here's more from Coach Mays.
The beauty about last year is we were very junior heavy. A lot of what is going to be our senior class played both sides of the ball and all special teams. We were thin, really thin. We're shooting up 28 kids every game. And so the going to be senior class has those battle scars, and hopefully they can kind of prove themselves on the field this year.
With the changing divisions and stuff, we have a lot of high hopes as far as playoffs goes and just general record and success. So I would say the goal is just win some football games.
I think our defense is going to be very, very strong. I think our offense is going to get a lot better from last year. So I say we'd be pretty strong on both sides of the field.
Coming up next here on Countdown to Kickoff, we will head back into town. We'll head over to your old stomping grounds, Mike, North Valleys and the Hug Hawks right after this.
Welcome back to our Countdown to Kickoff special from Bishop Manogue High School. She's Shannon Kelly. I'm Mike Stefansson. We're keeping things moving now with the 5A D3 ranks and two teams back in the large classification. Two rivals. We'll begin with the team and the school that got a new building last year, Shannon. They got a new coach, and now they're in a new division, the Hug Hawks.
And a lot of success for first-year head coach Anthony Doucette over there at Hug. Hug entered the 2022 season on a 40-game losing streak. Their last win came in 2016. They finished the year going 6-4, their first winning record since 2014. They fell in the first round of the playoffs, but certainly it was a big step forward for Coach Doucette and this program. Coach Doucette's been coaching for a long time in this area, and it was a fresh start over there at Hug, a new school. These guys, he said, getting excited about football again, which is really awesome to hear as now he heads into year two with this group. Here he is and some of the guys.
Last year, first year in a new school, new program, just coming in and learning the kids and trying to install some stuff. Year two, it's kind of settled in. Feel like we're way more advanced in what we're doing offensively and defensively, knowing our kids more, knowing what they can do. We feel like they're better football players in year two, too, because they've had more experience, more coaching, and just, we feel pretty good going into year two and being in our system again for a second year.
What was the emphasis for you taking over a new program and, wanting to establish yourself and obviously you want to establish trust with these kids? So what was the emphasis for you?
Just trying to get kids to trust us and have fun playing football again. That was kind of the consensus when we got here, was that football wasn't fun, and they had a pretty negative experience before, and trying to make it fun for them, exciting, and of course win some games, which we were able to do, and just build off that.
We built more confidence after a winning season, Before we were 0-40. Now we're 6-4 now. Now we're going to enter this season. But yeah, everybody on the team is confident. We don't back down from anything.
So the Hawks do lose Connor Humphreys. He was the Swiss Army knife for Hug last year, had more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. So certainly will have some big shoes to fill. His little brother Xander Humphreys is on the team this year, Mike. But heading over now to North Valley's Coach Doucette's old school.
Yeah, exactly, which only made that rivalry even better, that old Valley Cup matchup. As, yes, the Panthers now led by second-year head coach Brad Rose, who had spent the previous few seasons leading the Sparks Railroaders. But if you talk to Coach Rose, he'll tell you that North Valley's was his dream job. He actually started as an assistant there when he was still a teenager. So year one had some bumps, 2-7 overall. One of those wins was via a forfeit. They were able to take down the South Tahoe Vikings. The previous team, which would have been Coach Doucette's last year, made it all the way to the state semifinals, but there was a lot of talent lost from that team. 4 all-region players are gone, 5 are back. Something Coach Rose is preaching this year, quote, be the Buffalo. He explains that as not running away from storms, instead walking and enduring them and taking lessons from them. So here's Coach Rose and the Panthers setting the table for 2023.
Year one was a lot about establishing the culture and establishing our grassroots foundation, and our guys really bought into that. They really bought into our belief system and things like that. And we struggled a little bit last year. We were really young and definitely trying to replace the team that had just won the league championship and had a ton of seniors, created a lot of challenges, but it really opened up for opportunity for us this year because now guys have a lot of experience and we're together as a group. So it's been good.
What is the biggest emphasis for you in year two, having, like you said, established that foundation?
We have a saying around here, and that's be the buffalo. So we attack every storm head on, and I think that's something last year we didn't do as well. When storms came, we tried to avoid them a little bit, and going into this year, no matter the opponent, no matter our training, no matter our practices, we're going to take it head on, and we're going to go after it, and I think our kids have really bought into that.
Last year, we didn't end off on a good note, but that week after we came back, it's just straight grind, from lifting heavy for 3 months straight to going out to Oregon for 5 days to UC Davis 7-on-7 at the Monty. It's been a real grind.
Words to live by. Be the buffalo.
I love that.
Full disclosure, I am a proud Panther alum, and Coach Rose is a guy I've known for a long time. He is as passionate as anybody in this town about high school football and definitely about North Valley. So you heard the kids say a week after school ended last year, he took them on a trip to the Oregon coast where they got some work in there. You heard the mention of UC Davis and all the various opportunities that North Valley's had this summer to get better. And so the idea is, of course, to improve on that 2-7 record in year two under head coach Brad Rose. They will open against his former team, the Sparks Railroaders. And of course, it'll be so fun to see North Valley's and Hug battle once again for that Valley Cup. Coming up next here on Countdown to Kickoff, 2 more teams left to set the table for in the 5A D3. We're checking in on Galena and those Colts from Wooster High right after this.
Back here on Champion Chevrolet's Countdown to Kickoff, presented by America First Credit Union. He's Mike Stefansson. I'm Shannon Kelly. Mike, we've almost made it to the end. Still 2 more teams we have left standing, Galena and Wooster. We'll start things off with the Grizzlies up on Mount Rose Highway under head coach Aaron Cook.
They had a big season last year, considering in 2021, Shannon, both that COVID-delayed spring season in the start of 21 and that fall season at the end of the year, they didn't win a single game. Fast forward to 2022, 6 wins, 5 losses. Head coach Aaron Cook, as you mentioned, going into his 5th season, 3 all-region players are gone, but 8 are returning. I tell you what, you look at the 5A D3, and it's hard not to see Galena as the favorite, especially considering last year this team went 4-0 against the programs they'll be facing in league play this year. One name to look out for, the recent Nevada commit, Tyler Miller, will be a force on both the offensive and defensive line. Colson Kermode also has an offer out from the Wolfpack, and also give a shout out to Joe Sizz, who can get some things done as well, as the Grizzlies are going to try to put it all together this year and claim a league championship.
I think we have a good group coming back, and last year we were pretty successful, so I'm pretty excited, and the energy throughout the spring practices and going into the summer practices has been really positive. Our guys know that we were successful at times last year. We had the first winning record in a couple of years. We went to the playoffs the first time in a couple of years. We won the academic state championship, which was huge for the program. It's the first time in 20 years we've won that. So all spring we had a ton of positive energy throughout our players and our staff. Everybody's very committed to the program, so it's been fun.
How do you think last season will help motivate you guys having that winning record for the first time in a couple of years?
I think it was definitely a building block from last season, and it's almost like giving us confidence going into this season. So then we're ready to face the teams in the conference from us beating them last year. And kind of going into every game, we know that we have a chance, and it's like we're ready to go no matter who's on the field or what our competition is.
We've been playing with these guys for a long time, like me and these other seniors, and I think they'll just push these other guys, these young guys that are slappies, to keep going harder. So I think just the motivation for us to win, because we haven't had, like last year we had a winning record, but we still want more than that. So I think that's just our drive, really, is to go far.
You heard Joe say it right at the end, and Shannon, you were the one that went out and visited the Grizzlies, but it just seems so apparent that they are happy from last year, but certainly not satisfied, and they're out for more this season.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way, that these guys say, hey, we saw what we're capable of, but hey, let's take it to another level this season. And they have a lot of seniors just standing there. You know, you saw how there's so many of these seniors. Talking to a couple of the parents when I was out there that day for that scrimmage, they said, hey, we've been excited. We've been waiting for this group of guys because they've all been playing together for so long.
That's exciting to know. And you mentioned taking another level. That's exactly what is happening to Worcester, which joins Hug and North Valleys, is going from the 3A back up to the 5A ranks.
Head coach Bo Sellers entering his 8th year as the Worcester Colts head coach. This is a group that went 5-5 last year, and he said he feels like this group of guys has really put in the time this offseason. There's some guys that are also wrestlers. They've bought in to the off-season training and really just trying to put the pieces together, and he's excited to watch them play. He has a lot of guys, though, that play so many different positions, and that was one thing he is worried about, is the depth. Once they play some other teams that just have, 60 to 70 deep, they're not as deep over at Worcester, but he thinks that they can squeeze things out.
We don't have a lot of depth, and that's where I get nervous and late in the third quarter and fourth quarter, and especially with the two big schools we have on our schedule, which is Spanish Springs and Reno High. They got depth. They got 50, 60 man rosters where we're down in the 30s still. So we're going to have to toughen up early. We're going to have to play hard and train ourselves to play both ways early on and get ready for some of those games, especially later in the season when we got to win those ones to get a spot in the playoffs. Being put back up in this league, that's just another obstacle we're going to have to overcome. I think there's a lot of pluses for us staying in town versus traveling out to the 3A schools, but I think there's also a lot of things we'll have to take into consideration, numbers and things on our lower levels as we're still trying to rebuild things up to compete with a 5A caliber type school.
I think a lot of these players have been playing a lot of positions, so it'll help a lot around the whole field because everybody knows what's going on around them.
So this year I actually have a lot of more experience from last year, should be able to help the team a lot more. This year we got a lot of big guys on the line, really strong guys. We've been lifting really hard, so they should show out for us this year.
So Joe Max Sellers, he is the weights teacher. Jake Sellers is the assistant wrestling coach. And then Luke Sellers, the Elko head football coach. And then Bo Sellers, the head coach at Worcester. He's the youngest brother of the four, but awesome to see 3 of the 4 over at Worcester.
Yeah, long, rich history established from the Seller family. Don't want to date them, of course, but yeah, good to see them heavily involved in local athletics. And as he said, it's going to be a numbers game for Worcester. This will not be an overnight rebuild for them, if you will. But I know something else he mentioned to you is that their youth program has since been rejuvenated. And so the idea is to create that pipeline of young Colts and then turn them into some stallions, if you will, by the time they reach high school. And so we'll see what Worcester has in store back in the 5A ranks in 2023.
We'll wrap up our Countdown to Kickoff special right after this short break. Our final thoughts right after this.
We're about to wrap a bow on this Champion Chevrolet Countdown to Kickoff special presented by America First Credit Union. Of course, Shannon, we spent a ton of time talking about the 12 5A North squads that we'll be covering all season long, but we got love for the 3A, the 2A, and the 1A, and we should note, going back to last year, the only northern team to claim a state championship were those Truckee Wolverines, as they will look to try to repeat under head coach Josh Ivins in 2023. But of course, we should note that we won't just be covering the 5A all season long. We'll see you each and every Friday night on News 4 for Friday Night Lights as we cover the heck out of another high school football season, 5A all the way down to the 1A.
Should be exciting to see the 3A as well. Lots of changes in the 3A this season too, Mike. But for Truckee, they won their first state championship in quite some time. The first one for head coach Josh Ivins last year. We'll see if the Wolverines can repeat again this season.
And of course, we will have Friday Night Rivals coming at you on Nevada Sportsnet each and every week. First game, September 1st, Faith Lutheran will visit the Reed Raiders. But as I look at this schedule, Shannon, there are going to be some good all-local games throughout the season.
There sure will be, Mike. A handful of good games. Certainly one, most notably, is Bishop Manogue hosting Spanish Springs, a Northern 5A rematch. That'll be the first time these two programs have seen each other since November of last year. So there will be a lot of juice in that game, I'm sure.
That'll take place right here on September 22nd, and once again, we'll air it for you on Friday Night Rivals on Nevada Sportsnet. I do want to give one shout-out before we say goodbye on this Countdown to Kickoff special. You guys see this great set. We look okay. You don't see anything behind us, or in front of us, I should say, but shout-out to our fearless leader, Anthony Resnick, who set this all up by himself. We love you, Rez.
Yes, we sure do.
All right, that's been our Countdown to Kickoff special. Champion Chevrolet and America First are our sponsors. Let's have a great season, y'all.